welcome back to another episode of Hate Read. I'm Anna.
And I'm Em. Every fortnight here on Hate Read, one of us challenges the other to read a book that we think they'll hate, and then we talk about it. This fortnight, I challenged Anna to read Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. So first things first, Anna, did you finish the book?
I did. I finished it last night.
Yay! I think this is the closest I have come to fulfilling the goal of finding a book that you'll hate and I will like. Yeah. Because I didn't love this book, but I liked a good 80% of it.
Yeah, like it wasn't terrible, but the thing about me that our listeners might not know is I don't do emotions, like... And this book is emotional. I hate it. There were so many times I almost stopped reading just because of, like, secondhand embarrassment, let alone this whole, like, sad sack nature of the entire story. Like, I just can't do it. I prefer to laugh or enjoy. I don't know. I just like to. Sad isn't what I'm looking for if I want to enjoy something. I'm not like, oh, I need a good cry, let me go watch The Notebook. Like, no.
See, and I'm very much like, I cry at everything, so...
Did you cry at this?
Actually, no. Okay. Which is weird. But I usually, like, any even remotely sad thing I'll start crying at, so I kind of assume that I'm gonna cry at some point during any book. So I don't have a problem with reading sad stuff, because I should probably talk to a psychologist about that. I don't know.
Yeah, instead of actually just crying, I just avoid. So I think
See,
also
that's what I do in my real life, but I think in reading I'm better at.
It's easier to consume in pop culture as opposed to in real life where
right,
actually matters. So I just avoid all of it, which is also another very healthy coping mechanism, I'm sure. So yeah, this I think was definitely the first time we've had the situation where one of us might have come out unscathed.
I think again, 80%, about 80%. I had huge issues with the ending, and we'll get to that, but you know, the majority of this book I was like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. I feel pretty similar. I think there were parts of it that, like the end definitely, I was like, dumb. Yeah. But I think there were parts in between where I was like, this isn't so terrible, I guess. I guess we can go into the summary for those that have somehow managed to avoid this book and or movie. Somehow.
Had you seen the movie?
I had not. I don't even know if I'd seen a full movie trailer of it, to be honest.
Oh. Did you know how it ended before?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess going into it and knowing it was sad, like it was very sad, you can kind of expect that something terrible is going to happen. I thought, and I can kind of, I guess we'll go through this in the summary. Like, I can kind of tell you how I thought it was gonna, like, there's a point in the book where there's a chapter in another character's perspective, which I hated, by the way.
Oh, so much.
But where...
That needed to stop.
Where that character just kind of drops a line, that is a bit of a, like a, what are they called? A cliffhanger? And I was like, oh, so this is the part where the end happens, and then we see the rest of it's just going to be the fallout from that. But yeah, it kept going. as seems to be a theme with a lot of the books we read for this podcast, it kept going. Yeah. So if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, the main character of this story is Louisa. Lou. She goes by Lou.
Louisa, I think.
Louisa. Okay. Louisa Clark. She's like one of those quirky girls where she, dresses outside of the box, and she's just real chatty Cathy and brightens up people's day, but she's a little bit plain looking, but she's got big tatas, so I think it's okay. And the story starts with her having just lost her job at the cafe she'd been working at for the past 6 or 7 years. Like, it'd been a long time. And this is a pretty big deal because her family kind of relies on her salary to help them stay afloat because her parents are having some financial difficulties. Her mom doesn't work, and the dad is like constantly stressed out that he'll lose his job, which, as we learn later, is probably a sensible thing to be stressed out about because he loses his job. And and Lou's younger sister and younger sister's son both live with the three of them as well, and so it's just like a full house and not a lot of people are working. Well,
no,
Lou...
No, 4 of them. Because Grandpa.
Oh, and Grandpa. Yeah, I forgot about Grandpa because why was he even in this story? So dumb.
To make a point at the end, which was anyway. The grandpa has had a stroke recently and is recovering from that, so the mom has to stay at home and take care of the grandpa.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even put that together. That's why.
Oh,
that's why she acted that way.
You didn't put that together, that there was 2 references to it in the entire book.
Listen.
And then they try to use it to make a big point at the end.
Yeah, I was totally disinterested in anything that happened at Luisa's home.
Oh, totally.
It was
totally. And were they meant to be really mean, or is that just British? Because I feel my family is really mean to each other, but I thought they were so over the top. I was like, are they supposed to be abusive to her? Is this ever going to be addressed?
It was like they never cut Lou any slack. It was always like, hey guys,
why aren't you working, fatty?
Yeah.
I was like, all right,
well, neither are you, but okay. And Lou also has a boyfriend who doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Who is played by Neville Longbottom in the movie.
Shut up!
Yeah, which makes the entire movie completely unbelievable, because why would you ever pick anyone over Neville Longbottom?
Well, I mean Finnick, come on.
Nope.
Well,
nope.
Okay.
Nope.
But it's not Neville, though. It's douchey athlete guy.
Yeah, but Will's personality is equally terrible.
That's also true. But he's in a wheelchair, Emily, so you can't say that.
I can and I will.
Yeah, Will's a dick. So Lou has to go to the job agency to figure out what she's going to do with her life, and she works a series of very strange jobs, including working overnight at a chicken factory. I don't know, just taking apart chickens for sale. I don't know.
At one point, the job person tries to get her to work as a stripper, which is is that a thing? Again, Britain, what's going on over there?
Please fill us in. Is this, if you went to a job agency and you had
would they be like, do you want to be a stripper?
Yeah. Because
that would as
not,
far as I know, not happen in the US.
I would like to meet the recruiter who is in charge of finding strippers for different gentlemen's clubs. That would be a very interesting job, I'm sure. You go to the interview, right? But you're not really supposed to hire someone based on their looks, but you kind of also
right.
And how you look, you're a desperate girl and you're cute. Why don't you come work on the pole?
Which, I mean, nothing wrong with stripping if that's,
not
your
all,
livelihood,
you make a shit ton
but
of money.
The recruiter aspect of it makes it really weird.
Yeah. He looked at Louisa and he's like, there's nothing I can do for you.
Right.
You should just become a stripper. It's a very strange situation. Let us know if that is actually what happens over there across the pond. So basically this job as Will's caretaker is the last thing available to her after stripper even, was this job as Will's
she
caretaker.
Turns down stripper. She's like, no.
So she goes to interview for this job with Will's mother, Mrs. Trainer. I don't remember what her first name is. We'll call her Mama T.
Megan.
No.
It's Megan Trainer.
Oh. I was like, no, you dummy. It wasn't Megan. That's not a posh enough name. Megan.
Well, Meghan Markle now. She's going to be a princess, so now it's
true.
A posh name by
That's
law
true.
of England. That's how it works over there, right, guys?
Yeah. You have a checklist, right? What was I? Oh, yeah. So she's hired basically to cheer up Will because he's already got someone that does the medical stuff. So she's just a companion, basically. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, is her family supposed to be super shitty? Because she goes home and she tells her parents what her job is going to be. And they start, like, ragging on Will immediately.
Yes, they're like, it's gross.
It is so disturbing. Let me find this section of things that they say about him, because like I had to go back and look. I was like, when was this story supposed to take place? Because it's 2009 in the world.
Okay,
of
here's
this
the
book.
thing. It's 2009, but it's not, because at the beginning of this, I asked that same question, when was this supposed to take place? Not because of any of the sexual harassment and weird attitudes towards the disabled, but because one of the jobs she works at is at McDonald's. They don't say it's McDonald's, but it's very clear it's McDonald's. And she talks about giving away a Sleeping Beauty Happy Meal toy. And I'm like, so I was very suspicious, and I was like, that cannot be correct. This must be just nonsense. So I looked up every Happy Meal toy
Oh my God,
ever made. And in 2002, there was a Disney, 100 Years of Disney Happy Meal, something like that. Or not 100 years, 100 movies. So they, I think, had a Sleeping Beauty at that point. So I was like, so this happens in 2002. But it doesn't. It happens in 2009. And Jojo Moyes did not do the appropriate Happy Meal research for this book.
Gosh, strike this book from the records. I can't believe that. What should it have been? What were the Happy Meal toys of 2009, Em?
Let's see, Happy Meal 2009 toys. What? Oh, Monsters vs. Aliens.
Oh God, I remember that movie.
Yeah. Some strawberry shortcake stuff. Anyway.
Oh.
This is not what this podcast is.
That took you like 2 seconds to look up. Come on, Jojo Moyes. Fucking Sleeping Beauty. and, okay, so she makes fun. She's saying like, oh yeah, I also think Sleeping Beauty is the best one. Why?
Why do you think
Everyone knows Sleeping Beauty is the worst.
That's a poor decision. Here's the thing. I'm a huge Disney nerd, both movies and parks. I love Sleeping Beauty in terms of like the movie and the style, but Sleeping Beauty, the character, is a basic bitch, and no one likes her.
We just like it for Maleficent.
Favorite. Right, come on.
Yeah. Big black and purple dragon.
Duh.
So anyway, they're questioning. She goes on to tell her family about this.
We've covered a lot of things that don't have anything to do with this book.
Which is probably for the better. So they're asking Lou questions about Will, who I don't know if we mentioned that's his name. His name is Will, the guy in the wheelchair that is a dick. And first of all, they call him the crippled man. And then someone in the family mentions that Lou will end up spending more time with him than she will with her boyfriend, Patrick. But then her dad says, at least you won't have to worry about the old sexual harassment, eh? Probably the best boss you could find for your girlfriend, eh, Patrick? Like, oh my God, this guy's a quadriplegic, first of all.
And then her mom asks, I was thinking, will you have to learn sign language? Why?
Yeah.
Why would you? What? There's just a lot of dumb questions that they ask.
I think Lou's mom is the type of woman that if she finds out someone is blind, will talk to them very loudly and slowly.
Yes. Yes.
She's exactly that woman.
And then they all make fun of Stephen Hawking, which, like, rude.
Yeah, and then her sister goes, I think it would freak me out if he talked through one of those voice boxes. Can you imagine? Get me a drink of water.
She mimicked.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Have you learned no human decency?
But that's the thing, it's not just her family who behaves this way. It's everyone Will comes in contact with, except for the one woman at the wedding.
Right.
Like, everybody else. And I mean, like, I get that that's probably, to some extent, true, that people have negative and lacking in, like, have reactions that are lacking in understanding when they see people with disabilities. Like, that's obviously true, but it's literally every single character except for one, including Lou. Like, she
constantly, oh my gosh.
She, like, is horrified by the idea of having to possibly deal with having to wipe his butt when she, like, first gets hired,
Mhm.
like that she'll have
She's,
to
like,
deal with like
obsessed with
bodily
it.
fun. She's so obsessed with it. Why are you so worried about that? They already said you didn't have to do it. Stop worrying about it.
Oh, God. And then, yeah, she just, like, she stresses out about every single aspect of Will's disability, and then, like...
And literally almost all of the issues could be solved with either her asking Will or her reading the medical documents she was given.
On the first day of work.
Right. Like, if she had paid barest amount of attention, a lot of mistakes could have been avoided.
Or just, like, a quick Google, which, again, this is 2009, but Lou doesn't know how to use a computer, which is a plot point that comes up later. Like, it's not just a funny, like, I'm not a computer person. It's a legit, like, she goes to the library and learns how to use a computer in 2009. Which, I don't know, maybe this is my privilege speaking through, like, I've always grown up with a computer.
Well, and to be clear, but she's not, it's not 2009 and she's 88. It's 2009 and she's 26.
Yes.
Like...
Oh, yeah. We're not asking her to make, like, a huge leap here, but maybe we are. Maybe she's never seen one before. I don't know. So she goes to work, her first day of work, she goes to meet Will, Will Traynor is a quadriplegic. I guess he has I don't know the terms, and I'm not very familiar with the language that would be used to describe what his injury was, but that he has some sort of spinal injury between the C4 and 5.
Yeah.
Plates, discs, what is it? Spinal cord, vertebrae. That too.
Between the C4 and 5 vertebrae, I think.
Yeah. So, sorry, forgive me, I wasn't reading this book very closely. So this renders him completely incapable of movement and sensation from, like, his chest down, right?
Of love.
Yeah, and capable of love and human decency. I think he can, like, move one of his arms, kind of.
He can move his hands, but he can't grasp very well. But I don't think he can move his arms, and he can't move any of his lower extremities.
Right. And he, before his freak accident, where I think he was just, like, it's very confusing. They give a prologue of Will.
The accident.
Yeah, of the accident, but basically it just reads like he got out of a taxi, saw something really quickly moving towards him, walked out into the street to see what it was, and then got hit by it.
I don't remember that being the description at all.
Okay, because I read it like 3 or 4 times. Let me go back to this prologue.
Skim that?
It was very confusing to me. I had to read it several times before I was just like, pass. It says, he glances up at the screeching sound. So he gets out of the taxi. Glances up at the screeching...
He's getting into the taxi, I thought. He's not gone anywhere yet. He's getting into a taxi.
Okay, so he sees the side of the glossy black taxi in front of him, the driver already winding down his window, and at the edge of his field of vision, something he can't quite make out, something coming toward him at an impossible speed. He turns toward it, and in that split second, he realizes that he's in its path, that there is no way he's going to be able to get out of its way. I guess I misread that. He turns toward it. In my mind, imagined Will saw something and was like, huzzah, and ran into the street to be hit by it.
Like a dumb golden retriever. Which, I mean, I can see where you would get that impression of Will from the rest of this book.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. So, he gets hit by this thing, and we never get to know, like...
I thought it was a motorcycle, wasn't it?
Probably. That sounds about right. I don't know. They never explain what happened to the driver of the motorcycle. Do we think he just died?
Oh, he's unimportant.
He doesn't matter.
Lou's not in love with him, so he doesn't matter.
He doesn't exist. He served his purpose to destroy Will's body. So Will is all, like, understandably having a very difficult time with this transition from, like, playboy, thrill seeker to quadriplegic. And I think by the time we come across him in the story, his accident was about 2 years ago, and he's turned into a reclusive shut-in in that time. Lou meets him, and he's very cold to her and mean to her, and she immediately wants to quit her job, but her sister convinces her to stay because Lou was actually only hired on a 6-month contract, and she's getting paid way more than she would have been making at any other of the minimum wage jobs she was eligible for, and the family could really use the money. So she says, okay, I'll stick it out for the family, and we'll see how this goes. So she spends most of her days just like cleaning his house and making tea. And I guess putting DVDs in his DVD player, turning on the music. Basically, Will has asked her not to interact with him at all. I think there's a line where he says, "My mother tells me you're very chatty. Can you make it a point to be unchatty with me?" Which, okay, sure. But it all kind of starts to change when one day Will's ex-girlfriend and his ex-best friend come to visit him, and they tell him that they kind of bonded over their sorrow of Will's accident and, you know, struggling to deal with all of that, and they've fallen in love and they're getting married. And Will is, like, understandably, like, very angry about this.
Okay. But Will and this girl had been dating for 6 months, and he's acting like, I mean, yeah, it's upsetting, but you guys have been dating, you weren't, I don't know, I thought
you weren't engaged.
They weren't engaged, they weren't even really that long term. It's, you know, like, it's implied that he's a bit of a playboy and is out and about with various girls, so I mean, like, get over it, dude, like...
Yeah, and I guess, like, I have to question, they said they wanted to go to Will and tell him themselves, and they weren't looking for his blessing, but they thought it'd be respectful if he heard it from them, and blah, 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 but, like, they hadn't been in contact with him for months before that.
Well, if Will treated them the way he treats everyone else, I wouldn't want to be in contact with him either, because he's sad and bitter, and which, I mean, like, it's understandable, but at the same time, it's like, it's not your girlfriend of 6 months job to
stay with you
forever just because you were in an accident. Like, I don't. Hashtag Alicia did nothing wrong.
Yeah, Alicia did nothing wrong. Rupert, on the other hand, I don't know. That's his best friend. That's a little bit. That's crossing maybe a line. Maybe. So Will is mad, and he goes into his room, and he, like, destroys all his pictures of his previous, I hate to say, like, his previous life, but his previous lifestyle, I guess, and including pictures of him and Alicia together. And Lou goes in there and, like, tries to clean it up. And,
let me clean up this glass.
Let me glue these frames back together.
Fix the thing that you just broke very obviously for a reason.
And, like, here's the thing. I know Lou comes from, like, a family that's not so well off, but Will's family is rich as shit.
Right.
So I'd be like, let's just get some more dollar picture frames from the Dollar Tree. Like, and so then they kind of have, like, a little understanding between the two of them grow from that day, because Lou's like, stop being mean to me, I just need the money from this job. And Will's like, oh, okay. And then they become friends from that conversation. I don't know. So, some time passes, and Lou learns that Will is planning on ending his life.
Which she learns from eavesdropping.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot about that part. No, Will's sister, Georgina, comes for a visit and is all pissed off at Will, and Louisa doesn't understand why until she overhears Will's sister and mother talking about this plot for Will to end up committing assisted suicide at the end of the 6-month period. For which
essentially he
was
had
contracted for.
Tried to commit suicide earlier, and upon discovering this, his mother made a deal with him that he would stay alive and not try to commit suicide for 6 months, and that she would help him with the assisted suicide. They would go to Switzerland? Was it Switzerland?
Yes.
Switzerland to Dignitas, the clinic that does assisted suicides. And Georgina is like, how could you agree to this? And Louisa overhears the whole thing.
Yes. But Georgina's reasonings for being mad at Will for this is because it'll make the family look bad, as opposed to, like, I want you to have something to live for, brother. I want you to be able to enjoy what life you have and to spend time with you with it. But instead she's just like, I can't believe he's going to drag our name through the dirt like this.
Well, There's a couple things here. Number one, like, the context of this book, which was written in response to an actual case of assisted suicide where the family got a lot of attention for it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's kind of what she's writing in response to. On a character level, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really understand Georgina's motives.
Yeah.
In this, but
I mean, I think, again, there's a lot of backstory from Will's side that we don't really get. We get everything about Lou, but
her stupid family.
We don't really get, like, what the family dynamic was like entirely during that time.
Right.
I don't know. She was very strange as a character.
Yeah, another one of those characters. I was like, did she really need to be in this book? Like,
she was mainly a plot
just
device.
to prove a point. Yeah, again, just kind of like a soundboard for someone's opinion, just like Granddad was. Right. So Louisa thinks about quitting her job again for the second time, but Mrs. Traynor convinces Louisa to stay on because the whole point of hiring someone like her was to get Will to change his mind about wanting to end his life.
Which is terrible, by the way, that this woman hired a young girl, or a young woman, to work for her to do a very specific task, and didn't tell her what that task was, number one. And B, that it's a task that's like, putting someone on suicide watch, you need to know that you're on suicide watch.
Yes, that is so much responsibility for one person to take on.
Right, and just to do the job correctly, she needs to know what the job is. Like, what?
Yes. Like, at this point, they were just doing the same old stuff that they were already doing, which I don't think was bringing Will much comfort to begin with.
Right.
So, yeah, there were a lot of important details left out of this job contract. I think at that point she would have been within her rights to
be like,
to leave
see
if
ya.
she wanted.
Yeah, but I'm not familiar with British employment law. I know it is slightly different than American, so maybe you don't have to disclose that.
Yeah, maybe you don't have to tell people what the job is.
What the job actually is that they're doing.
Louisa goes to the library to learn how to use a computer so she can look up excursions for quadriplegics to take part in, to show him that life is worth living and he can still, find enjoyment and fulfillment in doing these more like thrill-seeking experiences that he was having previously in his life. And she makes a little calendar and everything, and she's basically just like planning a field trip every day, I guess. And she gets involved in these message boards and starts talking to people about their experiences and getting opinions on what is right and what's wrong. And so she decides that for their first excursion, they're going to go to the racetrack to watch the horse races, which goes terribly. So they drive to the racetrack, and Lou has not done any research on, like, handicap accessibility.
Lou is not interested in doing this job correctly, even once she knows what the job is.
Yeah, exactly. She's just kind of winging it. Whatever happens, happens. So they go to this racetrack. The parking lot is basically a grass field, and it had been raining, so it's hard to push his chair through the grass. And they get there and they watch like a crap ton of races, but it turns out Will doesn't even like horses, so he was really pissed off the whole time. And then they want to go to lunch at the restaurant at the racetrack, but it's only reserved for people who bought a certain tier of badge to get in, which they didn't. And so Lou tries to weasel a table out of the server by, like, using Will as an excuse.
I was like, girl, you're being so gross right now.
Yes.
She's like, oh,
like, my friend
is so hungry.
Yeah. Like,
and Will's over there like, I eat 2 crackers a day. I don't really need this food. Like, it's fine. And she's like, no, we have to eat here.
I have never been to a restaurant before.
Right. It's like, this seems like it might be a little bit more about you than Will, but okay.
Definitely. Yeah, she definitely wanted that full experience. And it was just not meant to be. And so they kind of get into a big fight about it. But then over the course of the book, they have a few more outings that are more successful, including a concert that he makes her go to, because she's like, I'm not a classical music fan, and he's like, oh, I bet you are, and so they go and listen to classical music, and she cries at the concert,
and
just like a bunch of outings and shit.
And personally, I find that trope gross of, especially guys, because it's usually guys, being like, oh, I know you say you don't like this thing, but you just haven't learned to experience it yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck off, man. Like, if I don't want to listen to a bunch of violins creaking at me for 2.5 hours, I don't want to listen to it. Like, leave me alone.
Maybe, like, give me the CD first so I can decide if I want to spend the whole night doing it. Like, yeah, I mean, a concert's not for everyone. I totally get that, especially a classical music concert. Like,
I mean, I had to sit through a lot of classical music concerts, because I used to play viola in, like, middle and early high school. So I kind of have an aversion to them just because of that, but, you know.
Those traumatizing
Right. Because, of course, everybody in middle and early high school is terrible at playing instruments.
Middle school orchestras especially are very terrible.
What if you took her to a middle school orchestra?
One of my great friends is performing tonight, and it's like a 9-year-old with a fiddle. He got us free tickets.
And they're like, he's in his tux, she's in her fancy red gown, and this, like, mom, PTA mom, in, like, a sweater, like an Argyle sweater, comes up, like, oh,
which sweater vest?
Which one's yours? Season? And Will's like, don't you know I can't have sex? None of these children can be mine.
The life I can't lead now.
I'll never have a child. It's like, Will, calm down.
Simply explain, I'm just here to support my 9-year-old friend. We're just friends. And this kind of, like, leads into the next plot point, I think, to bring up, is that throughout all this, Will is, like, very, almost, like, disgusted with the boring life that Lou leads, because she's never been out of the country. She's never really left the small town where she was raised. And to be fair, she is very boring.
But she's, like, happy in her boring.
Yeah, but she likes it, yeah.
Right.
And so he's
like, not everybody needs to go out and do 8 million things. Some people like to stay at home, you know, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, you're wasting your potential.
Yes, that's the thing. He, like, guilts her into it, but he's like, look at me. I get so mad looking at you and seeing all the things you can still do that I used to be able to do.
I'm a lifeless husk, even though I'm still alive. You are full of potential. Like,
unlimited potential.
I'm like, Will, join a wheelchair basketball league. Like, what are you doing? What is the issue?
Yes.
Please stop.
Go eat sushi. I don't, whatever it is, like, that
there
you
are
used
options.
To do. Like, come on.
No, I just want to watch my 9-year-old friend and yell at you about your
the
potential.
height of culture.
Louisa,
you do not understand what you are missing out on. So many 9-year-olds and their fiddles of various sizes.
There's the baby fiddle, the big boy fiddle,
the stand-up fiddle,
the upper fiddle, the little fiddle that's slightly larger than the other little fiddle.
Sometimes I call it the alto fiddle. Will was just so cultured, you guys. You just don't even know. So, and I guess, like, the reason Lou has lived such a boring life is because she had an experience where she was getting drunk with some friends in her early 20s and had too much to drink and was stoned and went with this group of men that she had just met. Her and her friends all went with this group of men, just met into the they live in a town with a castle, and the castle has a maze. And they all went and they snuck into the maze, and all her female friends left her there by herself.
Which
shitty. Yeah, they're not friends.
Well, not even shitty, but, like, I don't know, unrealistic, I felt. Like, I was like, really? Like, y'all so wasted you're gonna leave your drunk-ass friend with, like, a group of...
pieced out?
I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, and it was weird because, like, I don't know, it was kind of framed like it was intentional or malicious almost because of how Lou
like
reacted to it, but why?
Yeah, they're not clear.
Yeah.
Not clear.
So, she had a traumatic experience that resulted, I'm sure you can guess what happened. And this is the cause of her not being able to live as full of a life as she would have otherwise wanted.
Which this plot point was so shoehorned in that it was not even in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
As far as I remember, yeah.
Well, it is so pointless because she's like, yeah, well, I had been planning a trip to Australia with that group of female friends, and the next day I canceled my ticket and I've never left the country since. But, like, okay, one, at the beginning of the book...
This happened in the country, though. Why?
Yeah.
What do you have against Australia?
Well, and then also, too, she planned this trip at the very beginning of the book. She and Patrick have a trip planned out of the country that she has to cancel because she lost her job, which, okay, that's a fair reason. You're not going to have any money, but you already bought the plane ticket, and Patrick offered to, like, cover your share of the rest of the expenses.
And she's planning to go to Patrick's, at first she's planning to go to his marathon, which is, like, in Norway or something.
Yeah, she was planning to go help support him in his
So she obviously
running.
Doesn't have an actual aversion to leaving the country. Like,
yeah, she just, like, would rather spend a Friday night at home reading a book than jumping off a cliff.
It just seems like this happened to her and she dealt with it 6 years ago and has moved on and is living her life. And then Will comes at her and is like, you have so much potential. You must, why have you not tapped into this potential? And she's like, I don't know, I was raped or something.
Yeah, like...
like, she's, like, trying to justify it. But it's like, why? You don't, number one, you don't need to justify it. And number two, I don't see how the two things are connected.
Exactly. And, you know, the book is trying to make this point of, like, enjoy the life you have because others...
Is it? Is it trying to make that point?
I think so. I think it's trying to say, if you're an able-bodied person, you should be out there doing able-bodied things.
But if you're not an able-bodied person, you should kill yourself.
Yes. That was
is
the
essentially
whole
the message I got from this book. Which, like, fuck you.
But what it really turned into was, if you're a cute girl, even a disabled man can get you to change your entire personality. You are so weak-willed. Like, I think that's what also was portrayed here.
Oh, man.
She did it all for Will, because she loved Will. Not because
she had
she learned a lesson from him.
She didn't want to do any of this stuff. I mean, I guess she had fun doing the stuff, so maybe then she, like, realized, I
can scuba dive.
I can go watch a middle school concert.
By
and that'll be a
myself
good...
next time.
In my ball gown.
It was a dumb point. But anyway.
But we move
on to find out what happens. Will, under Lou's ministrations, opens up enough to agree to go to his ex-girlfriend's wedding.
Oh, also, have we raised the point that at this point, Lou has essentially become in cahoots with Will's mother? Like, they're...
I don't think we...
plotting, like... Yeah, because, like, his parents are bankrolling all of this.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's
in order to try to secretly convince Will to want to live. So there's a lot of weird power dynamics going on here, and a lot of lying.
Yeah,
about stuff.
yeah. Will's mom is basically like, I don't care what it costs, just get it done. And it can be seen, and Will's sister definitely takes it as a Lou is taking advantage of that fact. And just living this life that she wants to live.
Just partying it up.
Yeah, and taking Will along with her as an excuse, which, if that were the case, we'd just leave Will at home. He's kind of ruining everything. I mean, with his personality, not like, God, that sounded really terrible. No, I meant like with his really shitty personality where all he does is complain about everything, as opposed to like...
Unless it's a thing that he already likes, and then he's like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, but the only times that happens is when it's something he's planned. So, Will decides to take Lou as his kind of date, kind of caretaker.
Unclear.
To the wedding of his ex-girlfriend and ex-best friend, where... Even though Will has to face a lot of characters from his past, they end up having a pretty decent time because he finds one other woman there that talks to him like a regular person as opposed to talking down to him or just straight up avoiding him.
And the only reason she is able to do so is that she used to work as a disability rights advocate.
Mm-hmm.
So in this world, no one can properly interact with a disabled person unless they've been professionally trained to do so.
Yeah.
Which is shitty.
Unless they've been exposed to them in the past.
Right, right. Like, come on. For real? And everyone else is just, like, sitting there like, hey, look at the man in the wheelchair. Like, what are you doing?
What a Quasimodo. Like, what? And, like, okay, I get that this is kind of, like, supposed to be a high society wedding, and so there might be some assholes that do that.
You can't tell me, though, that there is not some 90-year-old baron in a wheelchair who's rolling up to that wedding.
No
way.
one else.
Like,
they get there and they have to ask the bride to find a wheelchair ramp. Like,
right.
What?
Like, it's like no one has ever heard of wheelchairs before.
Yeah. Also, like, what's with the building regulations where no one has, like, handicap accessibility anywhere in 2009?
I mean, I don't know, because I know it is, again, like, Britain, and they're so quirky over there. Because I think they say something about, like, the castle or whatever not having proper wheelchair access because it's old or whatever. So I think, like, because of the historical value of stuff, sometimes they don't have to comply with... Because
it would ruin the beauty of the history.
Yeah.
I see.
Right. Which is... Okay, whatever.
You know, and everything in the U.S. is like 20 years old or whatever, so like, they don't care.
Yeah,
put ramps on everything.
Fuck it. Add a Walmart to it. Who cares?
This building's only 2 floors, needs an elevator.
Literally the only old buildings we have imported from other places. Yeah. Like, we have a castle near where I live that someone moved here. From another country.
Can we talk about
stone
how
by stone.
arduous of a task that was for
Insane.
Loveland Castle? Oh, sure. I shouldn't say the name of it so people like, don't know where you live. But like,
oh man,
totally worth. But and what happens at this wedding? They get super drunk and they get all flirty, and Lou wants to dance with Will, so she takes him out on the dance floor and sits in his lap, and he spins in circles.
Which okay,
okay, it's cute, I guess. I don't know, but like, she's drunk and he's going in circles. The girl's gonna be throwing up in a second. Like, she's really drunk. She didn't know, and again, maybe this is me being a snob, didn't know that a Pimm's was alcoholic.
Oh yeah,
and so
my
she
God.
had like 3 of them in a row.
We don't have Pimm's here, really.
Yeah, it's not a huge popular drink here, but
like, obviously that was alcoholic. I was so confused when she's like, oh, "Wait, this has alcohol in it, but it has fruit."
So
I'm like, "Bitch, have you never had a sangria?" Like, you can't tell me that when you and your 20-something friends were hanging out pre, assault, that you guys weren't having sangrias at some point. Yes. Come on, that's bullshit.
You drank every fruity drink under the sun at that age.
Right,
come
on. What kind of logical leap is that to say, oh, if it has fruit, it must not have alcohol? What does she think wine is? And she's just like, this is some weird grape juice.
So Will's like, let's just get a hotel tonight so you can drink all you want. And so they do. They spend the night in a hotel, and nothing happens.
Except that Will gets a massive infection.
Yes, but, and this is a huge but, Will tells Lou not to worry about replacing the tubes on his catheter both the night after the wedding and the next morning because she's drunk. And understandably, like, Will's healthcare person, dude, is very upset with her when they come back. Like, that's ridiculous. He's super sick afterwards. Didn't want to ruin Lou's good time, I guess. After the success of the wedding, Lou thinks that Will is kind of turning a new leaf and maybe he's starting to realize that life is worth living, so she wants to plan this huge trip abroad to show Will that being a quadriplegic can be fun. She plans like this 2-week-long trip to California, where there is a ranch specifically designed for people with various disabilities and handicaps, and the cherry on top of it all is that she's going to take him skydiving because they have skydiving for people in wheelchairs in California only. There's nowhere else.
This is very powerful technology. We must limit its scope.
We will strap his legs down so his knees don't hit his face. It's revolutionary technology. Only in California are they doing it.
I mean, I guess it might not be so much that other places don't have the technology as much as it is other places probably aren't really worried about where, like, on the list of things that people with disabilities are concerned about in their day-to-day lives, probably will I get to go skydiving today isn't really that high up there.
Yeah, and I guess if it had to have been anywhere, it probably would have been California. But yeah.
Love you, California.
Then we get this, and like we kind of mentioned earlier, there is like maybe 3 or 4 chapters where it's told from another character's first person point of view. So we get one from Will's mom, I think, is the first one, and then
the first one,
his nurse Nathan, and then this chapter is told from the point of view of his dad, who was cheating on his mother and was planning on leaving the mother until Will had his accident.
Which, what?
Again, why does that matter?
Can we talk about this for a second? Right, like, he's like, well, as long as Will's alive, I can't leave. Why?
Yeah.
Like, what, why not? What's the issue? I don't understand how you being divorced or married has any impact on you caring for your disabled son.
Yes, and it's so stupid because they all know that the dad is carrying on this affair. Every character knows.
Right.
No one does anything about it, and the only...
Well, and in fact, he'd probably be better at caring for his disabled son if he was divorced and wasn't sneaking around, which isn't very sneaky, with this woman, because at some points he's supposed to be in the house so that Lou can call him and, like, ask him questions, and he just runs off to fuck this woman.
Yeah.
So, like, just divorce your wife and marry this other woman, and then you guys can take care of Will on weekends or something. I don't know. Who cares? Right, like, anything would be better than this situation you've created for no reason.
Yes, yeah, and literally, again, no reason for this. I mean, there could have been any other, like, there's enough tension, I'm sure, between a married couple in this situation that you didn't need to add in the fact that he was having an affair.
Right.
But I'm kind of biased because, again, that's another plot point I hate, is I hate when an affair is, like, a big part of a story. I just think it's so stupid. I hate it. So many things I just had to, like, stop watching or reading because I was like, this is dumb. Just have a conversation and break up with the other person. I was like, so fucking stupid. I hate. Anyway, there's never any reason to ever cheat on anybody. You're just too scared to have a conversation. Anyway, for real this time. So we get this chapter in the point of view from his dad. He's talking to the mistress, and he's like, he's like, on the one hand, I'm glad Will's getting, like, might not commit suicide or want to have this assisted suicide performed, because that means my son gets to stay alive. But on the other hand, that means I can never leave my wife or my mistress because Will will still be alive. Like, this was what the whole chapter was about. And then the end of the chapter ends with the line, but then Will got pneumonia. Which is the point. I was like, oh, great. So he got pneumonia and died. And that's the end of the book. Yeah. And then the rest of this is just like how Lou is dealing with that fact.
Right. Which would not be the best ending in the world, but would at least be better than the ending that we get.
Yes. Because, like many of the other things in this book, Will having pneumonia made zero difference to the plot, because guess what? Right. They had to cancel the first trip to California, but she just plans another one for when he feels better.
Well, but it's not to California, it's to, like, a beach that's relaxing, and they don't have skydiving, and that ends up being a better trip anyway. Yes. Which, why was any of that necessary? Just make that be the first trip that she planned.
Exactly. There was just all this, like, tension in the book for no reason. Oh, it made me so mad. Just so mad. Just like...
Good.
So Will has pneumonia, but he gets over it, and so they go on another trip. We could have cut out that whole 40 pages of the book. They plan a second trip to, and Wikipedia tells me it's pronounced Mauritius, which is an island nation in the Indian Ocean, which I learned about today. And they hang out on the beach for 10 days and have a real good time, getting tan, watching Nathan the nurse do sports, sitting in the pool, drinking fruity tropical drinks, which Lou learned could contain alcohol.
Those have alcohol, Lou.
Will is just expanding her horizons left and right. And on the last night there, Lou confesses to Will that she loves him.
And that's the end of the book.
And that's, that's
the
end of the book. That's how it ended.
Little abrupt, but you know what? It tied everything off. Everything was good. And that's it. We're done. We can move on to our next book. So what book would you like to challenge me with next week, Anna?
But no, the book kept going.
Oh, man.
Will is, like, super flattered, I guess, would be the best way to say it. He's like, wow, you can't believe what that makes me feel like, knowing I could have been I was an asshole to you, but you still fell in love with me. Like, literally,
wow,
I'm not joking.
Must be hot.
I'm not joking. I wish I were joking. He's like, but also I still want to die. And
your love is not enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Lou's all like, I can't believe I'm not enough for you. I can't believe. Oh, and then he's also like, and I want you to be there with me in Switzerland.
Which, no.
Which, also,
like, absolutely not.
That's a huge thing to ask of someone.
This is the thing. Will just expects way too much of these women who he knows for 6 months.
Yes. Yeah. 6 months is a real trigger for Will. Like,
breaks.
I mean, I don't know. And this whole time, like, Will's mom has been giving Lou a hard time because Lou has been, like, doing things like moving in with her boyfriend and planning trips with her boyfriend, and is just like, can you be a little bit more respectful to my son Will and stop living your life while he's still alive?
What was she thinking was the situation?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was she like, and here's the other thing. They bring this up a few times. This was another way in which this book was disappointing. They bring this up a few times, that Louisa doesn't know what Will is capable of sexually. And Will is, like, very down about the fact that he can't be sexual anymore. And that's, like, never addressed. Like, nobody at any point is like, hey, maybe you can't get your dick up, but there's, like, other stuff we could do.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know, that just bothered me that it was this very, like, neutered romance, and I'm just like, he can still be involved in sex. Like, you guys need to be a little more creative here.
Yeah, and I think that's even something he says, like, in Lou's love confession, where he says, like, I can't be enough for you. You have no idea the things I want to do with you right now and just am not able to. And, like, as it's part of the reason why he can't be with her in the long term, other than the fact that he's going to be dead.
Well, right, number one. I mean, there's kind of a idea in culture that people who are disabled are sexless, essentially, which is not true.
Right.
And it bothered me that they didn't address that they just kind of reinforced that idea.
Well, this is just a very surface level exploration of someone with a handicap.
Right, and this book got, well, more the movie than the book, but the book got some of it too. Got a lot of flack for its presentation of people with disability, and for the most part, I agree with all of those critiques. And I think the problem with this book is that it could have ended one of two ways, right? It could have ended with Will's death, either through suicide or pneumonia or whatever, or it could have ended with them getting together or him deciding not to die, essentially, even if they didn't end up together. So because the question is built around whether or not Will will die, whether or not Will will choose to die, there's not really a good option for an ending here, because if Will lives, then the storyline then becomes man chooses to live because of magic pixie girl influence, right? Whereas if Will chooses to die, he becomes the manic pixie boy. So neither of those is good. She went, spoiler alert, we're getting there, but spoiler alert, Will's gonna die. She went with the manic pixie boy version. Will teaches Lou to live a full life, and then zips on out of this, shuffles on off this mortal coil. But, like, good that this is still Lou's story, that Lou doesn't become a point of hope for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But then, boo, because now Will is this point of hope and more of a symbol than a person. Like, his wants and desires don't really matter at all in this book.
Right.
It's just what he can teach Lou.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gross.
Yeah, especially because he ends up, when he dies, he leaves her enough money and instructions on what to do with that money.
Yes.
Which is...
Yeah.
If we're gonna go with this thread of Will being mad that all of his decisions are being taken away from him, like, kind of doing...
He does that. He does the same thing. Which, again, gets into the whole power dynamic of, like, this whole relationship is fucked up. This relationship shouldn't have happened. They're way too
codependent on each other, is the thing.
Like, he's her employer in some ways, except he's not. He's her charge.
Yeah.
So she's got the power, but then he can get her fired, but then he has more money, so he's able to pay for the things that they do and able to control her life post-death.
Yeah.
But then he's in a wheelchair, so she has physical control over him, which, incidentally, once he's like, no, I don't want to be in a relationship, I'm still going to die, she abandons him on the beach.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck? She abandons him on the beach, and then when they're flying home, she refuses to interact with him, and she's supposed to be, like, feeding him and stuff.
Yes. Which there is another person there with them, but...
Right, but still.
It's pretty rude.
Gross. It's pretty gross.
Yeah. It's such a weird... It's, like you said, just a weird power dynamic. That's uncomfortable on several levels, and even upon his death, is still going to play out in her life for years and years and years to come. Because how do you get over the guy who not only died in this tragic manner, but also is, like, paying for you to live this life?
I believe you can find out by reading the sequels.
No, there are sequels, no!
There's 2 sequels.
I thought those were completely separate.
Nope.
Not at all.
Nope,
related.
It's a trilogy. It's a trilogy.
Oh my God.
And I tried to find, like, a synopsis of... First off, can I share with you? This is... The synopsis of the second book, given on Wikipedia, sounds like it was written by someone who... English was, like, their 8th language, and they're doing a really good job of it, but it just doesn't sound... Let me find it real quick.
I knew she had come out with other books, but I genuinely thought they were all separate standalones.
This wasn't her first book either.
Oh. What was her first book?
Yeah, no, this was not her first book. I know she had a book called Ship of Brides, which I think was before this one.
Oh God, yeah, I see here now.
Let me see real quick. She has...
Me Before You.
Sheltering Rain, Foreign Fruit, The Peacock Emporium, The Ship of Brides, Silver Bay, Night Music, The Horse Dancer, The Last Letter from Your Lover, and then Me Before You. So she was, like, an established author before, which shows this is well written. I don't think anybody's debating that.
Yeah.
But this is the synopsis of After You, which is the second book. It continues the story on Louisa Clark after Will's death. She is trying to move on. She was so convinced by his motivation to change, so she moved to London and got a job in a coffee shop in the airport. She enrolls in a moving on circle in a church and lies to everyone and tells them Will's name was Bill. One night she decides to go up the roof of her building to sit alone. When someone from behind her talks to her, she panics and falls off the roof.
What?
She breaks many bones and takes so much time to heal. After she gets well, Lily, Will's daughter, gets in contact with her, and she wants to know everything about her deceased father, who she didn't existed until he passed away. Lily wants to get to know her grandparents, so she moves with Louisa. She hates living with her mother, stepfather, and her half-brothers. Meanwhile, Louisa gets to know Sam. He is the uncle of one of the boys in her moving on circle. Also, he is one of the ambulance drivers that helped save her life. As she gets to know him, a new love story begins to grow in her life. Nathan gets in contact with her and offers her a job in the USA. She interviews for this job and gets accepted. It is such a hard decision for Louisa. She had just started to fall for Sam.
Wow.
That's the
Wow. Well, thankfully I don't have to read that.
Yeah, so that's like the second book, and then I think the third book just came out recently, and I have not been able to find a full synopsis of that, but it involves a Will lookalike as the new love interest, except presumably able-bodied, so I'm sure I would hate it a lot.
Yeah. Well, here, I'm reading the first sentence of the synopsis on Goodreads. Louisa Clark arrives in New York ready to start a new life, confident that she can embrace this new adventure and keep her relationship with Ambulance Sam alive across several thousand miles.
Yeah.
Ambulance Sam.
Yeah. So it goes a lot of directions after this, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know about all this. Okay, well that's disappointing. Oh gosh,
So yeah, you can find out how her life goes after this if you want by reading the next 2 books.
Yeah, write in and tell us how it all was. We're super interested.
And again, like, I liked most of this book, as much as I just shat all over it, up until the ending, which again, the ending, there's no way to do a good ending for the book that's presented here. It's either gonna be ableist or sexist.
Yeah.
There's no way to get around it.
She set it up in a way that she was kind of doomed to those two snares.
Yeah.
Like, there could have been so many other directions this took, but...
Right. And I think even, like, the earlier issues with the people being super shitty toward disabled people could have been resolved if this had gone in the opposite direction and Will lived and people, I don't know, like, learned not to be shitty to him, but that doesn't happen, so as a result, the earlier stuff is even more terrible.
Yeah. Well, and I guess we should probably say, like, what the ending was.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
So, Lou returns home, and she officially quits her job after threatening to several times before. Doesn't talk to Will for several days. The day of his appointment in Switzerland comes and goes, but at the end of the day, Will's mom calls Lou and says, he really needs you here. Get on. I've booked the last flight for you, leaving from there to Switzerland. Be here. Or be square, I guess. I don't know. So she goes and she's like, oh, actually, you know what? I somehow had an epiphany about Will's desire to end his own life at a time of his own choosing. I will go out there and I'll support him. And they have, like, this reunion that's, I guess, really sad for some people to read.
Even I was over it at this point.
Lou's mom gets really upset that Lou goes to support this because at the end she, like, reveals to everyone why she was working so hard and why she's so sad and blah, 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 blah. And Lou's mom just, like, completely loses her shit and says, if you leave this house to go be with him in Switzerland right now, you can never return. And so Lou's like, okay, bye. And leaves.
Right. Nothing good was here anyway.
Yeah, really.
This place sucked.
I was sleeping in a closet. And then Will dies and leaves her a bunch of money.
And here's the thing. Again, I don't think the conclusion that this book draws that Will should be allowed to make his own choices regarding his life or death is incorrect. I agree with the premise that even if we disagree with Will's choice, he should be allowed to make it. The problem is that this book does not exist in a vacuum. And with representation of the disabled community being so freaking low, having this be the book / movie that is, oh, here's a disabled love story. The conclusion is the guy decides to kill himself because he doesn't want to be disabled is really shitty.
Yeah.
And there are obviously people who feel that way, but when the dominant cultural narrative is already, it is worse to be disabled than dead, I don't think we need another story that promotes that narrative, you know? It's just gross.
Yeah.
Like, if there were 20 other books and movies that came out at the same time that was about a romance between a cute, quirky girl and a disabled guy, and this one happened to end with him deciding to commit assisted suicide, I'd be like, that's fine. Obviously, this is reflecting the lived experience of some people. But that's not the case. Yeah. This is pretty much the only book I can think of that is about a romance between a severely disabled person and an able-bodied individual. Yeah. And the fact that it ends this way is gross.
Yeah. Like, the only book that I could even think of that came close was a book about, it wasn't even a romance book. It was a young adult novel called, like, The Universe versus Alex Woods, which is a young adult novel in which a young man befriends an older gentleman who comes down with some form of terminal illness and decides instead of, withering away from this disease. He wants to go to Switzerland and commit assisted suicide. And so it's a little bit of a different angle on it, but kind of also dealt with the same issues. Like, this should be something that he chooses. Like, he shouldn't be beholden to a life he doesn't want to live because other people want him to. Like, he should be allowed to choose. But also, like, there was not a romance. So.
And also, if I'm understanding correctly, that was about a person with a terminal illness that was going to die soon anyway.
Yes, not about someone
And again, I'm not saying Will shouldn't have had the choice. I'm just saying that I don't find this narrative particularly useful or compelling.
Yes,
you know, like, it's
I agree.
It's like we've already been inundated with this idea that if you become disabled, like, what is your life even? It's pointless. Like, which is a shitty and untrue thing, like, cultural belief that I think is still really ingrained, which is why I think people have, like, a big kind of the sort of reactions that people have to Will in this book of pity and fear are because people have that belief that a disabled life is one that is not worth living in the same way that an abled life is. And seeing Will is a reminder that this could happen to them.
Yes.
So I think this book correctly identifies that tension and fear, but then its ultimate point is, at least for Will, that assumption is correct. That his life is not worth living anymore, or at least he does not find worth in his own life.
Yes.
Because he can't do the same things that he did when he was able-bodied.
Yes. Which he was living quite the full life when he was able-bodied. Like, that was kind of an extraordinary thing to have done already.
Yeah, but he also sounds like he was a shithead when he was
able-bodied. He was also a very bad person.
Right, like, in the wedding scene, him and Lou are talking, and he's like, oh, I wish I could have met you before I was in this wheelchair. And she's like, you wouldn't have even talked to me.
Yeah, I would have been invisible.
And he's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You would have been. And I'm like, oh,
wow.
Okay.
Dick. So, yeah, that was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes.
Which also, what is the title? What is it? What?
That's a good question. I guess
who's the me, who's the you?
Lou. Me is Lou. And you is Will.
So it's literally saying she's more important than Will.
Me. Well, I think it's more like me, how I was before I met you.
No.
I think that's what she's going for based on the other titles.
That is not at all. Like, because it barely goes into her life before him.
Exactly. Yeah. It's too boring.
Whatever.
Well, can we also talk about, like, her boyfriend Patrick and
oh yeah yeah she breaks up with him, or he breaks up with her because he realizes she's in love with Will.
They break up with each other. Yeah, he gets really weirded out by the idea of her going on this expensive trip with Will, and she's of course upset because he doesn't understand how important this trip is. So she tells him about what Will is planning on doing, and so I don't know if it was just like in some petty like retaliation to her breaking up with him, but he calls the newspaper and the media and tells them about what Will's going to do. And because his family is prominent in their town and their city, it's like a huge deal.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is like a character doing something just to kind of advance the plot.
Yeah.
And not like it didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like what's her name?
Trina.
Yeah, Lou's sister Trina calls Patrick and was like, how much did they give you for this story? And he's just like, oh, I didn't do anything, I promise. And then that's like it. Like, no, like,
yeah, incidentally, do we actually know if he did it or not?
There was a long enough pause to give Trina the answer.
Okay. So we don't. Yeah. We don't know, actually.
We really don't. It was just, yeah.
I think it was just, it's kind of like the, one of our very early episodes, the Chris Harrison episode, where the boyfriend in that seems perfectly fine, just not suited to the main character. Yeah. But then after the breakup, he does something terrible in order to justify the breakup. I think it's kind of like
they wanted to make him look like a bad guy, which is, it's totally fine for a book to have a narrative where, especially if the female main character is supposed to be getting together with another male character, to say, like, we naturally drifted apart and decided it was in our best interest to not be together anymore. Why does there have to be this huge dramatic, like, thing?
Well, and here's the other thing with this book. I kept forgetting about Patrick.
Oh,
entirely.
yeah. Like, they would bring up his name. I'd be like, Patrick who? Oh, okay.
Who?
Yeah. Neville
Her? What did you like about this book?
Ugh.
Silver lining.
Well, I know it's kind of a cop-out to say, because I feel like we say this about a lot of books, that we don't have anything else nice to say about it, but, like, I mean, it was easy to read. It was well-written. But we say that about all of them, so let me try and think of something different. It was fine.
I've already said I liked a lot of this book. The ending made me not like the earlier part, but if I had stopped at the beach, I would have been like, this book was fine.
Yeah.
But I do think it did a good job of kind of depicting the sort of everyday struggles that you don't really think about.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
For someone with a disability, which in the end was not a good thing because it made it it was like it was trying to justify
everything's a hassle.
Right, everything's a hassle, might as well kill myself. But
yeah.
But I do think that I appreciated that it didn't like try to gloss over that or
it didn't try to glamorize. Is that the word?
Yeah.
It didn't try to glamorize that his disability either, which would have also been another, like, a bigger problem to deal with, I guess.
I don't know, bigger, but just another.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess I kind of liked the character of Mrs. Traynor, of Will's mom. I thought.
Oh, see, I hated her.
Did you? See, I do agree. It was really shitty of her not to tell Lou the full story when they were hired, but I think we got a really good glimpse of someone watching their child go through this and feeling helpless and wanting what's best for your child, but what's best for them is like your worst case scenario ever, you know, and watching her kind of fall apart at the seams.
I think she was a good character. I just found her personality so fucking annoying.
Yeah,
that
I wouldn't have wanted her to be my mom.
Was she the person that you related to the most?
No.
Who was that?
I think it was Georgina. But I was just trying to think, like, if I was in this story, I'd be like, yeah, that Lou girl. She's just using our family money. Yeah, I think I'd be kind of suspicious of Lou as well, and I don't know. I think she just in that kind of just encapsulated a lot of the feelings I had. It's just like a lot of anger at Will. Like, she's angry at Will. Not the reason why she was angry at Will, but the fact that she just didn't seem to like Will very much, and everyone else loved him. It's like, all right, Georgina, get on board with that.
Yeah, in a similar vein, I think my pick was whatever his ex-girlfriend's name was, Alicia
or something, yeah.
Because, first off, I think she did her best. She was like, I've only been dating this guy for 6 months, but I'm gonna try to make it work. And then she quickly became disillusioned with his bullshit and left, which is kind of where I ended up at the end of it.
Yeah, he was not a romantic character at all, in the least bit.
No. Which it's funny, like, in the reviews for the sequels, people are like, oh, it's like what happens after Elizabeth, like, if Elizabeth Bennet was writing a book after Darcy died. I'm like, no, it's not. No. Gross.
That's not a relationship dynamic you should aspire to. Like, I don't understand this. Like, he was so derogatory towards Lou.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like they obviously, and I mean, like Lou says, you wouldn't have paid attention to me before the wheelchair thing. They would not end up together if they were not captive audiences to each other.
Yeah.
If he could not leave because he was literally stuck in one place, and she could not leave because she needed the money.
Yeah. Well, and then he tries to throw some bullshit line at the end of the book where he was like, "You've captivated me since the day I met you." And I was like, no, she didn't. You hated her.
Revisionist history.
You hated her. Well, what would you have rather been reading then?
I had trouble with this one. I tried to find like another book that had to do with disability or something like that, and I could not find one that I liked. So, which incidentally is probably because the vast majority of books that have to do with disability are written by able-bodied authors.
Yeah.
or serious community that's in need of
own voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the book that this kind of reminded me the most of was an author that I was like really, really into in my younger days, which was, and I'm gonna mangle her last name because I always do, Jodi Picoult.
Oh yeah, Pickles. I don't know. I know who you're talking about.
Jodi Picoult.
Jodi Picoult.
Who I don't read her so much anymore, but when I was like 14, 15, I was like, ooh, these books are so edgy. I'm such an adult. Because like all of her books are essentially around some sort of moral quandary that gets wrapped into a legal quandary, and there's usually a lot of emotional stuff, and someone dies at the end usually.
Okay. I've never read a Jodi Picoult novel.
Yeah. I don't know if I would recommend them because it's been so long since I've read any of them. I don't know if they hold up, but I really, really liked them in my teenage years, and this kind of gave me the same feeling, although this was more romance and romance heavy, and she deals more with legal sort of drama. But it was that same sort of like emotionalism.
Yeah.
Big moral question sort of thing, but wrapped in a pretty simplistic like plot. So really any of her books, I really like Mercy, I really like Salem Falls, I liked My Sister's Keeper was okay.
That's the only one I've heard of, I think.
Yeah, and that's the one that got me into a movie.
Oh, that's why I've heard of it.
Starring the Fannings. Yeah. So that was kind of what I was thinking of when I was reading this.
Okay.
And so I guess I'd rather have read that, but I really didn't mind reading this too much, so
yeah, that's fair.
I was until the last 20%. What about you? What's your pick this fortnight?
I kind of went a different route with it, and I was looking for a book that was completely opposite because, as I said before, I don't.
You hated it.
I don't. Well, that, and also I don't like emotions, and so, or at least complex emotions. I can do anger and happiness pretty well, but so I went with a book that never fails to make me happy every single time I read it. I love it. You love it too. Dark Lord of Derkholm by Wynne.
Yes!
Such a good book.
It's so good.
I read it for the first time probably 20 years ago.
Oh my god, I love that book.
It is.
That was like one of the first books we bonded over.
I think so. Yes, it's so good, so good. I
Everything
still read it. I can read it as an adult and still find new things to love about it because it's just, I love it. The sequel, not so much, but
I like the sequel.
What is it? Year of the Griffin.
Year of the Griffin, yeah. Which we should say author Wynne Jones. And she's also the author of Howl's Moving Castle, which is a Miyazaki film, but the book is very, very different, and I love both equally. But yeah, she has a lot of really great books.
Yes. A lot of really good children's books. And this one I just liked because it did a lot. It worked a lot with fantasy tropes. So basically takes place in a world where people from what we would call the normal world, like my and your world, go to a fantasy world on vacation and pay to have basically a fantasy novel experience where they go through and they have to fight villains and they have to find a treasure, and they meet the classic like fortune teller character, seer, and there's like armies that fight and do battle and stuff, and you can even, if you really don't like one of your family members, pay to have them killed in one of these like combat simulations. So yeah, it did a lot, and the main character of this book is very incompetent. He is chosen as being the Dark Lord, which is like the big bad evil guy of the fantasy tours that every tour group vanquishes at the end. They've chosen him, and he is very ill-suited for the job, and so hijinks ensue. But it's just so
good.
I love it. I would really recommend it to anyone of any age. But if you are a younger reader, especially, it was a very formative book for me.
Man, I'm gonna have to go reread that now.
Reread it? I know.
It's going on the pile.
Back to the top.
Oh man, did we have anything else we needed to talk about with this book, or have we beaten it to death?
Nah, I think that's it. I mean, I think you would like this book if you were someone who was looking for, that tearjerker kind of book that ultimately has a kind of uplifting ending.
Here's my recommendation. From what I can see, she's a good writer. go read one of her other books that doesn't have weird disability issues. Sure. I haven't read any of them, but I was looking at Ship of Brides. It looks like it might be pretty good. Maybe go check that one out. It wasn't poorly written at all.
I mean, it's highly rated. It's obviously a very popular novel.
Yeah. This might be somebody's favorite book.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably is.
Sorry
for ruining your favorite book.
Sorry.
Not sorry, though.
Hashtag we did nothing
like
wrong.
Better books. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not here to yuck your yum. If you liked it, that's fine. I did not.
Alright. Well, before we get into your challenge for next week, we should say real quick. Next week is going to be another rewind. Yep, sorry. Next fortnight is going to be another rewind episode. So just like the last episode, which was Anna's most hated early childhood book, we're going to be doing my most hated early childhood book next fortnight, which is Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator by Roald Dahl. So Anna is now going to offer a challenge that is going to be the two episodes from now. So episode 16.
Yes.
So you guys have plenty of time to read along if you so choose.
Yes, though I don't think this book will take that long. I know that we have a rule where we're not supposed to go over 400 pages, but this book, it's 406, so I hope you'll forgive me.
Is this a picture book?
No.
It's not going to take that long if it's 406 pages.
It's more one of those books that has very short chapters, and so a lot of the pages are like 3 lines of text on the page, and then you turn it, and it's...
Okay.
Doesn't it already sound great? The book is entitled Honeymoon, the first book in the Honeymoon series by James Patterson.
Oh, Bill.
Yes, it's a mystery thriller. I'll go ahead and just get into the Goodreads synopsis here. How does it feel to be desired by every man and envied by every woman? Wonderful. This is the life Nora Sinclair has dreamed about, the life she's worked hard for, the life she will never give up. She doesn't just attract men, she enthralls them. So why is FBI agent John O'Hara interested in Nora Sinclair? Mysterious things happen to people around her, especially the men. And there is something dangerous about Nora, something that lures O'Hara at the same time that it fills him with fear. Is something dark hidden in the gaps of her past? As O'Hara spends more and more time getting to know her, is he pursuing justice or his own fatal obsession? I could tell by the look on your face you are already loving this Black Widow narrative. Can't wait. See, I
have never read a James Patterson book in my life, and I don't want to start now. So that's about it for this fortnight's episode. Before we go, though, Anna, did we get any fan mail this fortnight?
We did! We got a fan mail! Yes, this comes to us from one of my friends from Germany. Hi, Saf. We're going to read your email out loud on the air. It's going to say live, but nope.
It's not live. It's several months in advance.
Oh, Steph says, "Hi, I'm so nervous to talk to the Hate Read podcast cast. So here's your first fan mail. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you get flooded with these. Anyway, here's Cats." And he's included a picture of his adorable kittens.
Yay! I love the picture of cats. Everybody please send me pictures of your cats.
Yeah, or any pet, really.
Any pet, yeah.
And you're right, that was our actual first fan mail because I'm not counting anything Michael has sent in as fan mail.
What? But he's our number one fan!
Oh, shoot. I guess technically mail from our number one fan would probably count as fan mail, but...
We can't alienate the biggest part of our fan base.
Listen, I think...
Responsible for most of our listens, your husband.
He also, and if you guys want to join him, is rating our podcast 5 stars every week on iTunes. Every fortnight, excuse me. Join him in that so he's no longer our number one fan, so I don't have to consider his emails fan mail.
But yeah, thank you so much for the fan mail and the picture of cats.
We loved it. There was another email from Michael.
Oh, was there? I thought we already read that one.
No, he sent a link. It's just a link. And I think it's more directed at you than me. But he sent us a link to an article entitled 10 Misogynistic Novels Every Woman Should Read for our perusal. So, is right.
All right.
So, again, be like Michael. Send us your book suggestions so we don't have to mention him anymore on this podcast.
Right. If you want to send us book suggestions, or if you want to tell us how the Me Before You series wraps up, because we're probably not going to bother reading it, you can tweet at us at HateReadCast on Twitter, or you can email us, hatereadcast@gmail.com.
We are on all kinds of platforms now, so please subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting aggregator, or iTunes, where you can rate us and leave a review, because we don't have enough reviews yet to have an average review.
See you haters later. In the words of Jojo Moyes, she was still hissing at him. I can't believe it. I can't believe you should even think of it. Why does no one know what hissing is?
Beautiful. That is a good question, though. Maybe we'll have a whole episode on hissing in novels.
Hissing without S's. Sentences that are hissed without S's.
Oh my god.
It's becoming a theme. So,
sorry, someone is literally outside honking jingle bells right now. Or, like, the rhythm of jingle bells. That's not a car alarm, that's just someone honking. I wish whoever's attention they're trying to catch would go out there.